Estou aqui no SHRM 2018 em Chicago, o maior congresso de recursos humanos do planeta. E eu tive o prazer de conversar com a Karishma Patel Buford. Ela é VP Global Talent Manager da Groupon. A palestra dela foi sobre Engaging the Newest Generation, How Groupon is Taking Experience and Turning into Wisdom. A gente vai ouvir um pouco a opinião, a perspectiva e a experiência dessa profissional de recursos humanos maravilhosa. Eu tive um super prazer de conversar com ela. Confere. Okay, I have Karishma here. It's a pleasure to have you here. Your talk now was amazing, and I would love for you to share with us at Insight conferences what is the thing that it really matters to you as a leader in this area of ours of human development.
Yes, so I can speak to that from the perspective of being in an HR organization within a corporate environment, what really matters. When it comes to talent or people initiatives, I think it's so important to make sure that it's business owned versus HR owned. This is really critical when it comes to influence and buy-in and ownership, because often in HR, it's an HR activity or an HR check the box. And that's not how you drive sustainable change, development, and impact. The way you drive that is when managers are truly owning the fact that they need to coach their people, that they need to develop their people, that they need to engage their people, that they need to have a big role in hiring and selection. So I think in a corporate context, in terms of human development, it has to be a business ownership versus an HR ownership.
I was in this taxi, this ride, with someone that was talking to me. I am not supposed to be here at this conference because I'm not HR. I'm a project manager. So I was thinking, everyone is HR. We're all humans. So you don't have to have the role, right? What do you think about that?
I think it's a great point. I think that the idea that we all have our part and we all own supporting culture, supporting the development and growth of our people, to what end? To the end of growing and supporting our business, right? We don't do it just for the sake of it. We don't do it just because, yes, it's the right thing to do. In a nonprofit, that's a different value proposition, right? There's a different goal. In a corporate environment where many of us are from, to what end? It's to get a better business, to get top line growth, bottom line improvements, right? So making that connection to why we do it is key. And I think everybody has a role in that. The other thing is be a continuous learner, right? Be a continuous learner. So maybe it's not your exact job description. Maybe it's not in your exact scope, but how can you learn about the bigger picture and the value that you can add and the contributions that you can make outside of your job? Because when we look at things like even high performers and high potential, that's what we look at. So learn, come with an open mindset, come with a growth mindset. That's how I would think about it.
Yeah, I think my dream is like to have lots of people here that are not have the job title of HR, right?
Sure, exactly. I think that's diversity. And that from diversity comes great learning and great impact.
Yeah, and I was admire so much the way that you lead and your strategies and your plans, and I think that it's so congruent what you talk about and what you are, because we are seeking for authentic people. For me, it's a young company, 10 years old, right? How do you find at Groupon this kind of I think it's a virtue to be authentic.
Right. So that's a great question, and it's actually how I started my presentation around alignment between the values that you have and the company that you're joining. And not about fit, because there's a lot of buzz around diversity and fit and what it means, but alignment. So making sure you find the company that fits with your values is a place where you can be authentic. But if you are somebody who loves to work independently, loves to drive hard and all about execution, not necessarily mattering whether it's with a team or not, and you join a very collaborative culture, you're not going to be authentic. You're not going to be able to be your true self, because it's going to be very frustrating for you. So making sure you find yourself at a place that aligns with your values is key. And so I talked about when we attract, we have a very clear employee value proposition in terms of who we know will align with our culture. And we look for that and we brand for that in terms of our employment branding and our strategies and in terms of attracting talent. So we do that from the start. We don't wait until people come in and then try to develop that authenticity. And so that, I think, makes a big difference.
Yes, and you are in 15 countries. What do you think that it's something that you've learned from we're here in Chicago, U.S., and what are the other countries' values and maybe some practices that you think that it's very worthy of, us trying to reply?
Yes, I love that question. So as I mentioned, when I first took on this role, I had a team in APAC, in LATAM, and EMEA, and we divested our LATAM business, but I still have a team in EMEA and APAC, in Australia, Japan, and India in particular. And in LATAM and Brazilian, of course, I really experienced such a level of gratitude in terms of the work that we were doing and the desire to own it, and such a thirst and hunger for learning that I just really, really appreciated it. And I really saw that it's a very relationship-oriented culture, which I loved too, is that it's about making that connection and making that authentic connection. That's what I saw when I was partnering with my LATAM business leaders and my own team there. I think in EMEA, there's a lot of complexity that happens, and just every country is different. It's not just like U.S. where every state is different. There's fundamental, federal level changes and differences that make working more complex there when you're thinking about rolling out new initiatives or getting buy-in. I think culturally, there's a lot more desire, I think, for details there. And when I've partnered with my UK partners, for example, a level of detail that I think actually wouldn't work in the States, for example. Keeping things simple is more of a push that I think comes culturally from the United States versus there. It's give us more, which I think adapting to that and making it work, I think, is really key. I think in APAC, I'm Indian, so I'm well aware of some of the cultural aspects in India that I think, really strong sense of responsibility and respect for authority, I think, is really important. And what are the implications for that when it comes to performance and execution, I think, is something that we think about when we roll out initiatives. And how does influence and buy-in look different in that type of culture? Japan is a whole other culture, right? In terms of how they think about engagement, how they think about what they want, and meeting the bar of what they're looking for when it comes to HR programs and talent initiatives. That's the one place where it is all Japanese. There is no English. And so having that understanding in terms of communication is super key. From a recruiting standpoint and a sourcing standpoint, it's all passive candidates. People don't apply in Japan. And so knowing that and how do we reshape our recruiting strategy is really important. So I think there are a lot of cultural aspects and norms that we have to flex and adapt to make our programs work.
Can we talk a little bit about the leadership development for millennials?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way I summarize development for millennials, I think, is in 3 words: instant, bite-sized, and continuous. So I think that generationally, there's not a difference in what people want. It's how they want it that has evolved and changed. And so the days of 2-day trainings or 1-week-long trainings, they're done. It's about how do we weave in something every day and make training bite-sized and learning bite-sized. And so what we did at Groupon is move away from a 2-day training to more of a 90-day experiential program where they come together and learn for short periods, and they go out and practice and apply. They come back together to learn and to debrief, and they go back out and practice and apply. And so we're building a skill here, and we're moving away from this mindset of one-time event. I think that's a approach that works really well for the millennial population in terms of bite size. But we also talked about the fact that we have situational leadership as our global framework for learning, and there's an app. There's an app that can tell you instantly, right before you walk into a coaching session, how should you adapt and what should your style and approach be. And so things like that, and weaving in technology to make the advice instant, is very important. And this idea of continuous. So I mentioned in there mid-year and year-end having these one-time a year events where we do performance reviews or development conversations. That's not what people want. They want ongoing feedback. They want continuous feedback. And so we've implemented things like anytime feedback and anytime check-in to drive this this continuous culture and this expectation that you don't talk once or twice a year. You talk continuously. And I use the GPS mindset, that a GPS doesn't tell you at the end of your trip how many right turns and wrong turns you've made. It tells you throughout. And that's really the mindset that we want to build in managers.
Could you give an advice for people that are starting their career and are looking for this kind of environment? What do they have to do from inside out to be ready for this kind of new era leadership model?
I would say be open and say yes. Take the opportunities. Don't just work within your job description. Do more. Find opportunities to have bigger impact and more impact. I think people who just stay within their job description are going to be limited in terms of the opportunities, but don't wait to be asked. Knock on other people's doors to find out what you can do proactively to make even a bigger impact than you think you might, and say yes to things that you think might be scary, because those are the best growth opportunities. And breaking out of your comfort zone for me has been where I've learned the most, and where I've learned has helped set my path for the next role and the next assignment, and ultimately get me to my goal, because I took risks and I wasn't afraid of risks. So in a nutshell, do something every day that scares you. Eleanor Roosevelt.
I love that. Thank you so much, Karishma. It was great talking to you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us here at Inside Conferences. Thank you.